2,400 years ago, in a desert where summer temperatures hit 50 degrees Celsius, a Persian engineer walked into a mud building and pulled out a solid block of ice. No electricity, no modern coolants, no machinery of any kind, just clay, wind, and a level of engineering that still surprises scientists today. This isn't a myth. The building still exists. Dozens of them, actually scattered across Iran, some still standing after 2,500 years. Archaeologists call them Yakhchals, and what's hiding inside their walls is one of the most quietly brilliant engineering solutions in human history. Picture Persia around 400 BC. The empire stretched across some of the harshest desert climates on the planet. Summers were merciless. There was no refrigeration. Meat spoiled within hours. Fruit turned to mush. And in a region built on trade routes and royal courts, this was a real problem because ice wasn't a luxury here. It was survival, medicine, and status all rolled into one block of frozen water. So the Persians did something that sounds almost backwards. They decided to make ice in the middle of a desert, using nothing but heat, shade, and airflow. A Yakhchal, literally meaning ice pit in Persian, is a domed structure with a deep underground storage chamber beneath it. Built entirely without electricity or modern coolants, it relied purely on shape, material, and the physics of the desert itself. The dome above ground could tower over 60 feet high. Underneath it, a wide pit dropped several meters into the earth. But the real secret wasn't the shape. It was the material. The walls were built from a special mortar called saruj, a mix of sand, clay, egg whites, lime, goat hair, and ash, and could measure up to 2 meters thick at the base. This wasn't just structural. Saruj was engineered to resist heat transfer almost completely, while also being waterproof enough to hold standing water without leaking. This wall wouldn't just block heat. It would trap cold air inside like a thermos for months. Here's where it gets genuinely clever. At night, desert temperatures crash, sometimes dropping close to freezing even after a scorching day. Persian engineers exploited this swing using radiative cooling combined with evaporative cooling, principles that Europeans wouldn't formally study until centuries later. Shallow pools of water were placed near the Yakhchal, often shielded by long shade walls that blocked any residual daytime heat or wind gusts that might warm the surface. As the night air cooled and the water radiated its heat upward into the clear desert sky, a thin layer of ice would begin forming on the surface, even though the air temperature might only be a few degrees above freezing. In some regions, ice was also brought down from nearby mountains to help start the freezing process faster, acting almost like a seed for the ice to grow around. Workers would then break the fresh ice into blocks before sunrise and move it underground into the shaded, insulated pit before the sun could touch it. Some Yakhchals took this even further. Certain designs incorporated badgers, vertical wind towers that caught desert breezes and funneled them downward. So hot air would rise and escape through the top of the dome, while cooler air was pulled in and circulated around the stored ice. Recorded temperature differences between the shaded interior and the open desert outside were often as much as 15 to 20 degrees Celsius, without burning a single drop of fuel. Every night, the cycle repeated. Freeze, harvest, insulate, repeat, until block by block, an entire winter's worth of ice sat stored underground, waiting for the hottest months of the year. Once the ice was harvested, it wasn't only used for drinking water. It kept fruit, dairy, and likely meat cold enough to last through the punishing summer. But Persians didn't stop at basic preservation. They turned this ancient refrigeration system into a luxury industry. Ice was used to prepare sharbat, a cooling sweetened drink, and faluda, a frozen dessert made of thin vermicelli noodles mixed with frozen syrup, a dish still eaten in Iran today. Ice was sold directly in bazaars and even delivered to wealthy households, and owning a large Yakhchal became a visible symbol of prosperity in cities like Yazd and Kerman. Think about that for a second. In a civilization with no refrigeration technology, as we understand it, someone in the desert could order a frozen dessert in the middle of July. Now here's the part a good history video has to be honest about instead of just entertaining. Not every claim about the Yakhchal is fully settled. The dating back to 400 BC comes largely from architectural style rather than hard scientific dating methods like radiocarbon testing. Many of the Yakhchals still standing today likely date to later Islamic or medieval periods, though they may sit on top of much older foundations, representing a building tradition that stretched on for centuries. That doesn't make the story less impressive. If anything, it makes it more impressive because it means this wasn't a one-time invention. It was a technology refined, rebuilt, and passed down for over 1,000 years, town after town, generation after generation, without a single electric bulb. In an age of rising energy costs and growing interest in sustainable design, the Yakhchal has re-emerged as a genuine case study in low-energy architecture, a working model of passive refrigeration built centuries ahead of its time. In 2017, a UK-based engineering consultancy recreated the thermal performance of a Yakhchal using computational modeling, essentially testing centuries-old physics with modern software. It held up. Modern engineers with access to satellites, supercomputers, and global materials science are studying mud domes built by people who had none of that because the math still checks out. So the next time someone tells you ancient civilizations were primitive, remind them that people in one of the hottest deserts on Earth were making ice, storing it for months, and selling frozen desserts in the middle of summer, using nothing but clay, wind, and the cold desert night. No electricity, no modern chemistry, just people who understood their environment better than we usually give them credit for.